Anyway, I'll be quiet.
Ooh, there we go. Epic. All I have to say is epic. I'm over the moon today, and for a couple of reasons. So welcome to Podcasters Live Saturday Live Training. It is a very, very special day for me. I think not just for me, but for the community at large. And we are here today with a very special guest, somebody that I've known for probably the last 3 years. This person has been extremely instrumental in who I am as a podcaster, live streamer, and also just as an individual. And I'm excited to have him here today, and we are going to connect with him right after this. All right, community. One of the things that we always talk about is, as a podcaster, it's important for you to have a community. It's also important for you to have people who are kind of your truth sayers, letting you know if a podcast or something that you like or that you're thinking about doing, whether or not it's a good idea or if it really sucks. I have been very lucky to have this person in my life for a good period of time. Person has been a truth sayer for me. This person has been an individual who I highly respect as a podcaster, but more importantly as an individual and as a human being. And this is none other than my good friend from all the way across the pond, Mr. Jamie Taylor. How you doing, dude?
So I'm keeping the seat warm for him coming in, right?
Hold on, I gotta give the applause. Make sure we're official. What's going on, dude?
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna come on and do official hug.
Yeah,
Other hair hug.
Yeah.
He's real. He's actually in studio.
Yeah, I'm one of your 3D friends now. Not a 2D friend, a 3D friend.
You are. What is it? IRL? Is it right? In real life?
In real life, yeah.
Is that what they say? Dude, man, I'm stoked. Hope you guys grabbed your you got your cup of coffee or your cuppa like
Branded. You got to get the branded one, right?
I got them set up with proper tea.
In the UK, it's tea time. So if you're in the UK, get a cup of tea.
See, there you go. I had to make sure I got them all set, man. I got them all set. And before we jump into a couple of things, I just want to make sure everybody know. We are of course over in LinkedIn. Thank you for everybody that's over on LinkedIn. Anita, I see you. I'm going to put your comments up here in a second. We're over on LinkedIn, Podcasters Live, and of course Facebook as well, Podcasters Live. And then last but very, very not least, our YouTube channel has been growing by leaps and bounds. So I just want to thank you guys for all the subscribers that we've been generating over the last several months and several weeks as well too. So cool. Let's say hello to a couple of people who are actually in the audience as well. Cher Jones, these guys are ready. She can hear them. She can hear them buzzing around. Yeah, man, we are excited to be here, and we're gonna have some fun. Epic countdown to an epic episode. Yes, indeed. Nita, thank you so much for joining from the ATL. We are over here in Alpharetta ourselves as well. Mr. Peter Bull. You know, if you know somebody, you know these guys, Jamie, you can say hello.
Yeah. Hey, Peter. Yeah, he's a dev guy that I know. Yeah. So thanks for joining us. All right, it's tea time.
It's tea time.
I'm incredibly proud that you're spending some time with us today during tea time. So thank you.
I know, man. I appreciate that. We got a heckler in the audience. Somebody has to watch this guy, Mr. Mark Taylor.
I see you.
We see you, Mark. We see you, buddy. Good to see you, dude. My guy, what's going on? Roy Tech Troublemaker is in the house, and he's doing his elf impression. You know of I know him. Exactly. Yes. In real life. In real life. This is awesome. What's going on, Wayne? How are you doing, man? Good to see you, dude. Good to see you. Oh, Jane, man, you know, when did we meet, man? We met, it had to be 2020? 2020?
Yeah, I want to say it was during, I always say the wobbliness, right? Because there are certain words and phrases that if you say them on podcasts and stuff like that, that you can be delisted. So I say the wobbliness, right? We all know what that means.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But it was during that we were part of a Facebook group, and our mutual friend Susie was like, hey, we should have like a Zoom session or a video session.
Yeah.
Just exchange ideas.
Yeah.
And that's how we met, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We'd been like chatting before and swapping ideas. Because in this Facebook group, I won't say which one it was, just because like I don't want to advertise specifically for them, but if you want to, then that's totally fine.
I can't remember. I can't even remember.
I'm sure Susie's sitting in the comments going, "No, I can't believe you're not talking about." But anyway, yeah. We that whole community is like, you can post a question, you can answer people's comments. People post like their artwork and say, "Can you criticize this? Give me some feedback," and things like that. Right? It's a really supportive community, and I think we just got connected because we were all just sharing these great ideas, and then we started what became Podcasters Live on a Zoom session. Because I think we both said to each other, wouldn't it be great if you could just get like this, what we're doing on Zoom, and put it out as a podcast? 100%. And you know, you've done it.
100%, man. No, it was funny because we would and this and guys are out there, if you are, the tendency sometimes as a podcaster, you think that you're by yourself, right? You think that, nobody understands what you go through, and the truth is that you are not alone. And the community that we had and that we were a part of, and then we kind of, if honestly, we kind of broke off, like me, you, Susie, and then what's the other young lady's name?
So there were a whole bunch of people.
No, it was four of us initially at the beginning. Though it was me, you,
Genevieve. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
sorry, everyone.
We'll move on.
We'll put it in the comments.
We'll put it in the comments. But I think the point that I wanted to make with that was that you have to find people who are like-minded. And be able to be a little bit vulnerable, because I think that's what, you end up getting the best, out of yourself and out of each other. And if I could be honest too, again, man, is that a lot of the stuff that we spoke about in those like, you know, meetings and Zoom calls, a lot of this stuff, man, has come to fruition for us, right? Would you agree with that, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, totally. I want to echo what you've said about, like, you find your group, your tribe, and then if you need to, see if you can splinter off from that, right? Just get the 4 or 5 people, or maybe 2, maybe it's just 1. Get that one person who's going to be sitting there with you and saying, I've got this idea, I've got this thought, or that person that you can be kind of brutally honest with and say, here's this thing I've created. Would you mind telling me what you like and what you dislike about it? Being brave, because that's a really brave thing to do.
Yeah.
And you know, once you find the group of people that you're happy with, and the only way you can do that is to be in communication with them, right? Because like, you don't want to just jump into a group. I've got a group that I'm part of on Discord, which is a similar thing. You know, people are on there asking for advice and sharing ideas and stuff, but there's like a 1% of people who will just take, and the rest of everyone is giving, right? And that's what you want. You want to be in that giving side, right? Because that's where you prove your value, and where, like, I can give an idea and it could be absolute trash, but then someone will say that's not so great, but here's why. And so you're both giving to that conversation. Even though my initial idea was a bad one, it means that I'm no longer going to follow that journey into that direction and find out that it's trash. I can have someone else tell me, someone that I trust, someone that's not going to sit there and say, you're the worst, Jamie, that's a stupid idea, you shouldn't be doing this.
Correct.
Right? Because I'm telling myself that anyway, so I don't need that coming from external.
That's so true. If you guys have questions or comments, make sure you go ahead and put them in the chat, because there's a little bit of a delay, of course, from when you put it in there to when we see it. But we want to make sure that we answer any and all of your questions that you may have, because if you've seen the title, we are talking about from 0 to 600,000 downloads. And I want to start the conversation, Jamie, because I think a lot of people are probably thinking about this. When did like podcasting, you know, like, when did it trigger into you, like, that this is a thing for you? When did this like become like real? Because I think that a lot of times, you know, a lot of people in the audience are probably like, either they're in it and they're like, maybe someone may have lost their passion, or some people are kind of maybe thinking about it and they're like, I don't know if this can actually be a thing or not for me. And we're going to get to how popular your podcast is and all of that stuff and everything. But I just wanted to kind of start with a foundational idea of like when did this become like a thing for you?
So as a content creator, or as a creator, it was 2014, 2015. So I kind of need to go a little bit technical to describe what's going on. Microsoft had created in the early 2000s this like programming framework that takes a lot of the toil out of making apps, right? And they called it .NET Framework, and it was available only on Windows, right? So if you're a Windows person, you can use it. And it's the equivalent of like buying off-the-shelf components to build a car, right? You buy the engine, you buy the transmission, and you just glue it together. It's a lot more complicated than that, but compared to like other programming languages and frameworks where you literally have to write every single line of code, you can just drag things in. You're not doing it visually, but you can say, hey, I want to communicate with a website. I'll go, website.get, and it will pull that information in. Whereas like in other languages, you have to go into the weeds of like opening a socket and sending individual packets of data to a server, waiting for a response. All of that stuff's taken care of for you, because it follows this idea of rapid application development. The idea of get these core components that already exist, glue them together and see if your application has legs. Because most times you don't know whether your idea has legs. That was Windows only. And then in around 2013, 2014, 2015, one of the higher ups at Microsoft called Scott Hunter went to the team and went, why can't we make this work on macOS? What do we need to do to make it work on macOS? And for those who don't know, there's also a third type of operating system called a Linux operating system. If you've used an Android phone, an Android tablet, or a Google device, they use Linux, right? And Scott Hunter has very famously said, I want you to be able to write your .NET apps on Linux. Because so the reason for that is TLDR, Windows costs money. Even if you don't realize it, when you buy a Windows computer, you're paying for the license to use the Windows software. The same with Mac OS. It's rolled into the price. Whereas Linux is like a free operating system. Anyway, put that to one side. 2015, 2016, they started grumbling about, well, great, this thing. Well, we've got .NET Framework. Why don't we call this one .NET Core and just create that, put that out there? So I got super excited because I'm a Mac OS user and a Linux user, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't been able to do this programming at home. There was a way to do it, but it was really complicated and broke a lot. So, yeah, 2015 comes around and they start releasing like, here's a public preview you can play with. And I'm sitting there with at the time, a 2011 MacBook Air, and I'm typing away and I'm writing applications in .NET, which for people like Peter Bull, this is a big thing, right? So, hey, Peter, you're a dev too, so you get this. For the non-devs, it may not be so obvious why this was exciting. So I started blogging about it, and I did that for about a year. And then I was like, I really hate writing because I'd set myself the target of release a brand new article every 2 weeks. Problem with that is I'd have to write 2,000, 3,000 words and write code to go with it. Because I was writing about, here's this cool feature you can do. Here's how you would do it in .NET Core and how it's different to .NET Framework. And here's the code for doing it. And then dissecting that code, right? Take the first 2 lines. What is this doing? What's that doing? And I had to write it for people who are both brand new to .NET and people who had been developers for years, right? And so that's really hard to do. So I applaud anyone who's a professional writer. You do stuff I can't do. But what I found was that what I started doing was I started like dictating the articles into my phone.
Right.
I found that super easy. I wasn't editing so much. I was just put it into my phone, put it through some speech to text, and I'm 60% of the way there. I can fix it. I can then write some code and done. And I was like, well, if I'm doing this, why don't I just like make
talk about it?
make a podcast, because there were .NET Framework specific ones, but there was nothing for .NET Core.
Right.
So similar to what you said earlier on, I found my tribe. I found a bunch of developers that are podcasters, and I had a call with them, and I was like, why isn't this a thing? And they kept saying, Jamie, you found your market. This is what you do.
Yeah.
This is what you should do. And so what I did, I took my laptop, went to totally not Starbucks, and ordered a coffee. And what I did, I got a blank text file open, or an open document, completely blank. And I said to myself, if I can't in the next hour come up with 12 just titles, episode titles or episode topics, then it doesn't have legs.
Come on, man.
I wrote 24 of them.
Yeah.
And I've only released 3 of them.
Yes.
Right? Because what happened was, shortly after I started, people started getting in touch with me and were like, I would love to talk about this thing with you. Okay, now it's an interview show, right?
Yeah.
But I recorded that first version. So I took that first bullet point, they broke that into like, okay, so if I have a beginning, middle, end, where do I want people who listen to it to be? And I thought, well, what's a great place to start with this? Well, a great place would be, what's .NET Framework, what's .NET Core, and why do they both exist?
Yeah.
What's the thing that's different about it? What's the thing that's the same about it? And I just wrote a 15-minute monologue. I wrote it in the train station. I was sitting there waiting for a train, just type it into my laptop, just like, and I started, like I said, bullet points. Each bullet point was then a paragraph. Each paragraph then became, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, and then doing a little bit of Googling around to see if I could find sources for the things that I already knew.
Right.
But I wanted to prove that what I'm saying is vaguely correct, right?
I like what you're saying, man, is because I think that and I was just talking about this the other day in context of like when you want to start something relative to live streaming a podcast, 9 times out of 10, the best podcast, I feel, you can let me know if you agree with this or not, is like you're already doing it. Mm-hmm. You're kind of already doing what it is that you are talking about, or that you want to talk about. I think the ones that we find that may not have legs are the ones that maybe they don't have enough content to kind of to talk about, and they want to talk about certain things that are like really cool and trendy, but man, you don't have enough experience. The thing that I'm hearing that you're saying is that you have first and foremost, you actually have the experience of what .NET Core, the podcast, is about, and then 2, you actually saw a problem that you actually wanted to. Did you actually see it as a problem, or did you just like realize that this was actually a need in the market, and then you actually kind of created around that?
So yeah, what I saw was there was a lot of people who were writing from a .NET Framework point of view. Oh, there's this .NET Core thing. Don't worry about it. It won't be here in a year.
Yeah.
And for historical reasons, Microsoft tend to do this. They create a technology and then abandon it 2 or 3 years later. But they're not the only company that does it. Google does it as well. Amazon does it as well. But then that's because, you only have so many engineers to work on a problem, right? Once you've run out of engineers, you're going to have to either give it away for free and hope that the community would write the stuff, or just abandon it altogether. And there's lots of different, like Google Mail was a product that someone at Google came up with, and Google went, "This is great, we should do this." But like Google Stadia, which is the play video games remotely,
right,
is going away because it's too difficult to maintain and manage and keep up to date. And so these kinds of things happen. They get abandoned and stuff like that. So a lot of people were saying, "Oh, this thing exists, but don't worry about it. It won't go anywhere, or it won't really compete." And I was like, well, regardless of whether it competes, it would be great if someone could create a bunch of content that was like, what is this thing?
Interesting.
Right? And unfortunately for me, 2 years in, they changed the name. So it's now no longer .NET Core. It's just .NET. So what I had to do, and this is an important lesson, I think, for anyone listening in, is be ready to pivot if you need to pivot, right? So all I did to pivot was I'd left the name.
Yeah.
The name is the same. It's the .NET Core podcast. The URL, .NETCore.show, the same, because I love that URL. It's nice and short, snappy. It's brilliant. So all I do is I change the intro from like the only podcast that's devoted to X, Y, and Z. It then became the podcast that reaches into the core of the .NET stack and gives you the information you need.
Yeah,
right? So I pivoted ever so slightly. I didn't need to change the branding, don't need to change the website, don't need to change any of that. But with that core group, I just want to, if it's all right, Steve, just quickly finish off that story I was telling you. That core group of people that I could trust that were the truth sayers, I recorded that first episode, and I went all in. I bought, Mark, who's in the audience, gave me a microphone of his. I bought some music. Like I went out and licensed some music.
Yeah.
There's a story about that too, but I'll go into that in a moment. And I had an artist, like a concept artist, do me the artwork. I created the website. I put it behind a password, so you had to know the password to get in to be able to see it. I put all of the effort into it, made it all SEO compatible so that when I took the password away, it would be ready.
Yeah.
And then I pointed these people that I trusted at it and said, tell me, what have I not done? What's wrong? What's not so great about this? And I got some brilliant feedback. And one of those pieces of feedback is something that I think a lot of content creators don't think about, and that is transcripts. Every single page on the website for the podcast is the episode. Right?
Yeah.
And that is, there's the SEO reasons. That's over here. I don't care about that.
Correct.
What I care about is the accessibility reasons.
Yeah.
There are people who can't listen either. So I was at Microsoft this week, and they talked about, this is something I can't talk about. There's three types of accessibility differences. There's situational, temporal, and permanent. Right. Permanent is, I've lost an arm. I'm never going to get that arm back. I will always be sans an arm. Right. Temporary is, I have a baby in this arm, but I will be able to get that arm back later when I put the baby down to sleep. And situational is, maybe I'm carrying some shopping in some bags. Right. Again, it's I will get that arm back eventually.
Right.
And so my thing is, I want to help out the people who are permanent or temporarily less able to listen to the show. So I put the show notes there as a full transcript that's searchable, and that way, because I've done this before where I've been listening to something on an NPR podcast and I've gone, wait, that was a great point. Rewind, pull up a notes app and hand transcribe it myself, pause back. And I thought this would be so much easier if I could just Control F or Command F for that bit and copy it and paste it somewhere. This is a great, because like what I tend to do is when I'm listening to podcasts, I make a note of, oh, shoot, Steve said this amazing thing straight to Twitter. You guys should check this episode out because Steve said this thing and it's amazing. And then send it. And then I will send, like, as part of that, I build up a thread and it's like, here's the link, here's what was actually said, and here's my takeaway from it. And I do that for not my show. And I feel like I'm making this the Jamie show. But the reason why is because my feeling in content creation, you have to be egoless. It's not about me. It's about the people who are consuming that content, right? If I wanted to make it about me, I could go, I'd try and make a TV show, right? That would be about me. But the thing I'm doing is I'm trying to make content for people who want to either get into .NET development or people like, I know that a lot of people in recruitment listen to the show. Because they're like, well, we're hiring people for this and I don't know what it is. And so they listen in and they're like, oh, that's what .NET is. That's what Avalonia is. That's what, and they throw out the buzzwords. Oh, I understand what these things are now. And because of that, I've actually gone a step further and I've created a free web app that we can link to if you want, called the Recruitment Glossary, which is designed for recruiters. They type in like It's not as clever as ChatGPT. I saw that in the comments.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But you type in like .NET, or you type in Docker, you type in Git. I'm doing word salad here, but these are the terms that you would find on a job spec.
Right.
And it will tell you what it is. It gives you a 3-level breakdown, and like no detailed breakdown. Git is to store your code. Next level, like so this is aimed at like a recruiter to give them the 30-second, I know what it is now. The next one is, I'm a junior developer and I want to know how to use it. Boom. And then the final one is, I've been developing for 15 years and I've never come across this. Here's an incredibly detailed thing with loads of links everywhere.
So all these things are spawned, like, and just so the audience kind of gets an understanding of this, and we'll go down the rabbit hole a little further too. But like all these things that you are talking about, all right. Especially with the recruitment piece, has spawned from your podcast, right? As a result of your podcast, and then I think I think I can remember this. We had me, you, and Susie. We had like out of one of our video like Zoom calls, we had like a lengthy discussion about accessibility, and I think we also even attended it was a presentation or something around accessibility, and that just changed my entire perspective around how I wanted to like approach my podcast as well too. So I want to make sure we get to the ideas around like how many how you got from where you are to from where you were to where you are, because I know that's what the audience a lot of the audience kind of wants to hear as well too. So you were. You saw the need in the area. You saw something going away. You pivoted. Your podcast, which everybody, if you didn't catch that point, right? You got to understand that if something's possibly not working, or if you start to look at your podcast differently, or you want it to go around, it's okay to pivot. Within your podcast, if those of you who have heard a little bit of my story when I was going from the Worthy podcast to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, how I know I've told you the story too, and like I had this whole bunch of angst, man. I was like, I gotta change, and what's everybody gonna think, like. And then I remember I was walking, had to walk, and I don't know what happened. I don't know, it was God or somebody came to me and was like, dude, nobody cares. You're not that big. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I ended up pivoting myself because I realized that I needed to serve the correct audience. Yep. And sometimes you actually have to pivot, not just out of, a selfish, thing within inside of you. I think you need to pivot because you want to make sure that you are nailing down your audience. Would you agree with that, or was that what your thoughts are?
100%. And and I got this from you, Steve. The only way to do that is to know your why. Like when I was crafting that first episode, quite literally, I was thinking, what do I want people to know as they walk away? Yeah. And I've taken this same lesson to like the talks that I give, and when I because I take on mentees and apprentices, I'm like, what is it that I want them to know when they're finished with this interaction? What conversation points, even if it's just knowing what words to Google, which words am I going to give them so that they can Google it later and find out a little bit more? They're not going to learn everything about it by talking to me for 5 minutes. Right. But after this, if they want to, they could take out their phone, take out their laptop, take out whatever it is that they're using to look things up, and look it up and get more information. And that's every single thing I do is like, aside from the video game silliness streamings that I do, all of it is designed to be, where do I want the person who's listening to be when I'm finished? Because I'm asking a lot from them. Like you and I right now are asking a lot from the audience. We're asking the audience to actually stop what they're doing and pay attention to us 100%. The entire time we're talking. 100%. So like my thing is, that's why I sort of front loaded everything I said with as much value as I could. And why I'm hopefully trying to provide more value now is because these wonderful folks in the chat, the folks who are listening live, the folks who are watching on repeat, to steal something from Cher, let us know if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay. Those folks are tuning in and giving us their attention, their time. And that's something you can't get back. You can get money back. You can get possessions back, but you can't get time back.
100%.
And so for me, it's like, well, if you're giving me that time, you're not really giving me it, but if you're giving me that time, what am I giving you in return? Yeah. It can be entertainment. It can be value. It can be education. It can be Like, if one person comes away from this with like one nugget of information, I'm totally happy.
Yeah.
Because it's been worth the entire trip over.
Yeah.
It's been,
us
hanging out and all that kind of stuff, right? It's been worth this sitting down here to talk about it because someone's going to go away and Google that one thing or go, oh, hey, oh, snap, I can make a piece of content. And I feel like what we're talking about doesn't just apply to podcasters. I know it's Podcasters Live, but it applies to literally anything. The only place it doesn't apply is like movies and TV and radio. Because at that point, you need to know what you're creating going in.
Correct.
Because you have to write, a whole season in advance. But with podcasting, you can pivot. You can, because it's like you said, it's your thing. And regardless of the size of your audience, you can pivot. There's another podcaster in the .NET space who has been doing it for like 15 years because they started when .NET Framework started.
Right.
And I interviewed him back in episode 18, and he actually said, we got to 2014 and we were like, what if, because it's called .NET Rocks, and they were like, what if .NET doesn't rock anymore? And they started coming up with like sister shows for, do we need to abandon this one and go elsewhere?
Yeah.
So they'd been doing it for like 10, 11 years and were ready to pivot at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like people should be.
Interesting. Yeah. I like that. I like that idea. I want to go back to something you said about time, because I picked you up this morning. I was listening to Chris Do. And I was listening to his podcast, and he was talking to, oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name, but he's a famous musician, a magician who turned public speaker, wears the glasses. I can't remember his name. If anybody, you guys out there know what I'm talking about, please put his name in the chat. But they were talking about how he was, when he wanted to pivot in his career from the musician side of it to being a keynote speaker, he actually like paid people to like teach him stuff. Like he literally like said, dude, I want to know how to use my voice differently. And he like paid somebody to like work with him for like, months, right? He wanted to understand storytelling. So he literally like paid somebody to like help him. And what he said to me, what he said in the podcast was super revealing. He said, I wasn't paying for their expertise. I mean, what I was paying for was time. He said, I was able to actually learn more in those little frameworks than I would have in like 10 years, right? It would probably take me 10 years, but within those days, the little short period of time. And so when I think about podcasts, I think about, the ability to help people learn faster and making sure that people are actually, they're saving time by the information that we are providing them. And I think a lot of podcasters may forget that piece. Is like, it's about the fact that, they are sacrificing their time to listen to you. And so it's important that whatever it is that you're trying to provide for them is going to, I think, help them improve, make their life better, maybe even save them some time. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, totally, 100% agree. And there was, when I first started, I was working for a company. When I first started doing the blogging and then pivoting to the podcast, I was working for this company in their development department. And every day I'd come in, I'd spot someone in the office. It was a different person every time. Was looking at the website. What's Jamie written about today? What's the episode about today? And I know for a fact, because I've got the analytics, I've got the stats, I could drill down far enough that someone in that office is still, every week, a new episode, or whenever a new episode comes out, someone's on the website looking at what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same person. I don't know if it's a different person. But just knowing that I'm having an effect on the company I used to work for indirectly. And what I used to do, like even before the content creation came in, I used to actually, on the train into the city, I'd be on my phone, reading loads of blog articles about what's coming up in technology, what's coming up in .NET, in different programming languages, what are the new innovations with cloud stuff. And I would actually have a little note on my phone. And they made fun of me at work, but like we'd get into work and I'd send it around to everyone. It was like, here's something that I think we should all read because this is where the industry is going. And they made fun and they was like, oh, it's Jamie's Daily Tech Notes. I was like, okay, let's call it that then. Let's call it that. Right? Because like I said, if one person during a 10-minute break reads one of those articles and then is able to go to the boss and say, I think we should use this technology or we can solve this problem a different way. Well, guess what? I've just saved the company some money, right? It's not necessarily about that, but also it's helped that person grow as a person, right? They've learned some more stuff. They've done some more things.
Yeah. Let me. I want to go back to the because I got another question I want to ask about about the podcast and things and where you are right now. But I just want to make sure we connect with everybody too. Said I came from .NET framework initially, and where .NET is today is so far beyond that now. Mm-hmm. The fact that you can write something that can run in a browser, mobile, just is amazing. So that's go ahead.
So on the back of that, with modern .NET, you can run it on a fridge. You can make your app and run it on your. If you have a Samsung Tizen fridge, you can write your app and run it on the fridge. So you could have like something that says, "Hey, the milk is spoiled tomorrow," and it reminds you as you're walking past the fridge, "The milk goes bad tomorrow. The milk goes bad tomorrow."
Oh, man,
bang! You know you don't have to open the fridge to look at the label. Oh, the milk goes bad tomorrow. I better buy some more today.
Yeah, so, ChatGPT can't do that, guys. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Here we go. Do you, a good question, Roy. Good question, Roy. Do you use something like Descript for your transcriptions?
So what I do, and I don't mind telling you the exact product that I use, and I know that Steve, you've looked at it, and I know that Cher has looked at it too.
Yes.
Shout out to Cher in the chat there. There's a product called dub.media.
Yes.
And you literally give it an MP3, or you can give it a video. And it gives you like a transcript, it gives you SEO tags, it gives you little trailers, it gives you everything you need to create like a media kit for that episode, and that's what I use. I used to use a service called Otter.ai, which was $9.99 a month, but then they pushed it up to $15, then they pushed it up to $17, which is not a problem. I'll pay if it's worth it. I'll pay for it. But then they started adding loads of features I wasn't using, like pull in your calendar and we'll transcribe your calendar, and I'm like, I don't need that. Pull in your Zoom conversations. I'm not using Zoom, right? And so so great for them, but not for me. Right?
Agreed.
I was looking. It's pivoting, right? I'm looking at what other projects are around and available. But yeah, I would definitely recommend dub.media. It's brilliant. dubb.media.
100%. And so Sam's the developer on that app. I've used it for the last 3 episodes for Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, and it works flawlessly. So I'm in the process of trying to get Sam on the show.
Sure.
And then we're gonna do a live test of the actual product. There are a lot of different products out there from a transcript standpoint. There's one product that I've been using now. I can't remember it. I think it's called transcript.com. I think that's what it is. And anytime my podcast would get published via RSS feed, it automatically goes to them, and then it automatically kicks me a fully transcribed episode as well too, so I can utilize that for website or whatever it may be as well too. So there's a ton of different products out there as well too. Go ahead.
One quick piece of advice about transcription is that if it's machine-based transcription, like dub.media, Descript, things like that, it will really only get you somewhere between 60 to 80% of the way there.
Correct.
So what I tend to do is so Mark in the chat, he's the editor.
Yeah.
He sends me the finished work. I upload it to Dub whilst it's doing its thing, because it only takes a few minutes. I then create like the artwork and fill out the rest of the page for the show notes. And then I listen back to the episode at like 1.5 times speed and read the transcription along and then fix it as I go. Right? Because my show is really like technical. It's got loads of technical terms, and it refers to people by like we'll talk about Scott Hanselman, who works for Microsoft on the .NET team, and he's a very vocal guy. But when we refer to him, we only say Hanselman. So there's no context for that for the machine.
Gotcha.
So it takes that word and says handsome man, which is fair enough. But I've got to look through and fix it. And what I used to do was I used to ask the community, if you spot an error, let me know and I'll fix it.
Right.
But now I use this technique, and it's like it's about 90% there. I've gone through it with myself. And Dub.
And see that's the level of importance that you place on the transcription.
Absolutely.
I think the tendency sometimes is that we do see a lot of errors from a transcription standpoint is because they're not taking that extra time. And I the reason I laughed is because when you said 1.5 times speed, it's funny because those of us who have been doing podcasting for a while, I don't think let's just say maybe even 5-6 years. I don't think any of us listen to podcasts at the normal speed.
No, of course.
I listen to every one of my podcasts at like 1.5, sometimes 2.
Right.
To be honest with you, and I know people are like, "What?" Like, or like, One, because I listen to so many podcasts. Two is because I've already trained my brain to kind of think, and listen to podcasts and consume the information. And so as I just started laughing when you said, like, 1.5 times, I was like, so I just wanted to make that little joke. Yeah. Good morning, Denise. How are you? Hey. I just want to make sure we say hello to everybody as well. Love the 2-person setup. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Excellent. Oh, Cher's Team Live.
Yeah, there we go. Cher, I stole your thing. Sorry.
There we go. Florence's Team Live as well. I'm making up for lost time, guys. What's going on, Corey? How are you doing, man? Good to see you. I'm glad you're here, though, buddy. I'm glad you're here. The Team Live party just started. I love that tip. Be ready to pivot. Be ready to pivot. Jamie has the passion. This is key. I'm telling you, we're gonna talk about that here in a second too, man. About the passion.
About that, but I'll come back to it.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Like, you'd be nice to Steve today. The last show, you were calling him out a bit. So be nice. Oh, was he calling me out? I think he was calling me out. I think he was trying to add. Community's always trying to add some value. Time is one of the most valuable resources. 100%. What did she say? What is I love the Freudian slip when Steve said, yes, it's just speaks the intimacy of the podcast. It's 100%. Does, right?
Because that's the great thing about a podcast is it's a
what's going on, Chris?
2, 3, 4, 5-person conversation. You're part of it.
Yeah.
That show that I talked about earlier on .NET Rocks, the way that they mix it, all of my shows are mono, but the way that they mix it is it's stereo, and they put the host in the center and the 2 guests either side.
Yeah.
So that you are literally in the middle of the circle of the conversation. Yeah, right.
Okay, hold on a second. We gotta go about that. I got it because I love when engineers engineer. This Dub.media. There you go. Yeah, it's Cher said it's great. So she's utilized it as well. 1.25. Good. I'm telling you, man, when you start to train your ears to listen to a podcast at faster speeds. Telling you, you do consume a lot more podcasts. That's at least for me. That was the main reason why I started doing it. So I must be weird because I still listen to podcasts. And you're not weird.
No,
stop. You're not weird. You're not weird at all. It's just and I've always listened to them. That's okay.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you.
Absolutely.
Whatever works for you. I am just. I think I'm weird because I listen to it like 1.5 or 2. Everybody else, normal people, do listen to it at regular speed.
My friend James listens to 3-speed, and he's like,
and
I can't catch that.
See, I can't do the 3-speed.
He's practiced, right? He's been listening to podcasts for like 10 years, and he listens to audiobooks as well. So he's constantly audio information. So
Jamie, man, here's the question, man. When did like the .NET Core, like? You are at how many downloads are you at? Right, if you were go ahead, you tell me the number.
When we were talking the other day, it was like 575K or something like that, which is.
Did you ever think that you would like get to that many downloads when you started?
I tell people when
it's such a. Here's the thing. I mean, cut you off, but here's the thing, guys. Like. He is in such a niche. Mm-hmm. Like it's like so people. The one thing that like. We always try to talk to people about is like, oh my gosh, I don't know, I don't need to niche down, and I get it. You may want to be broad, and you may not have a focus, but man, there is power when you niche down and you truly find that audience that you're kind of speaking their language, man. And so, did you ever think that it would get to this point? Like
I had no idea. All I wanted to do because like. The thing I haven't said, and if my friend Paul is listening or watching this at another time, he'll make fun of me for it. I'm an auditory learner, so I learned by listening, which is dreadful for programming because if you go to school, you got to read the book.
Yeah.
And you've got to write the code, right? So what I used to do is I had to like literally read it out loud to myself.
Yeah.
Like I would sit there, open the book, and I am reading the page that I'm reading out loud because part of it would go in through my app, but then saying it out loud, it'd come back through my ears, almost like a feedback loop.
Yeah.
And that's when it would go in. And so if you take nothing from this, learn how you learn. Everybody learns differently.
Yeah.
Right? Learn how you learn. But I had no idea it would actually go anywhere because I'm like, at the very least, I'm kind of creating it for, because I'm part of the target audience. I am not the target audience, but I'm part of the, there he goes. There's my brother Mark with his silly points, but that's fine, Mark. That's fine. We'll let that one slip. But yeah, I part of it was creating it specifically for me, because I'm talking with these wonderful people about the things that they're creating, and then that gives me, like, I'm listening while they're talking to me. Then before Mark became the editor, I was listening in the edit, and then when it went live, I would listen to it as well, just to sort of spot check and make sure it had gone out live. So I'm forcing myself to learn this thing that they're talking about, and I didn't know much of like what they were talking about. But by the time I've heard it 3 times, I've picked up loads of stuff. And so at the very least, I thought, well, it's a great learning resource for me. And then I started, like I said earlier on, I started spotting the people that I work with, listening to it on the work machines. So then that tells me there's a bunch of people listening to it. I'm going to drop this one as well. And
go ahead, man. Go ahead.
And this may be me adding 2 and 2 together and getting 5.
Yeah.
But
synergy.
That's it, right? So Apple Podcaster Connect, which if you create a podcast and you haven't got an Apple Podcast Connect, you need to, because you get all of the stats based on like location for Mac OS and iOS devices.
Consumption.
Yeah, it gives you listen time. It also gives you geographical location.
Yes.
15% of my listeners are based in Seattle, where Microsoft, Amazon, Valve, Nintendo, all of those companies are based.
Could that be a reason why you're a Microsoft MVP? Hold on for a second.
I mean, it might be.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
But what I'm getting at is that, like, there is an audience. Whatever it is that you're talking about, there's an audience for it. And that's part of the passion that I have, is that I want people to be able to learn new things. A part of my history is that I trained as a teacher. So I graduated in a comp sci degree, started training as a teacher because I graduated in 2008 when the credit crunch happened, right? So nobody's hiring anyone. And a safe route for work was getting into teaching. Took the teaching training, then a bunch of opportunities came up to go back into programming, and I've taken the teaching training with me, right? And so I want to be able to help people. All I want to do is just help people to get where they're going, right? That's why I take on apprentices. That's why I take on mentees, because I just want to help people. And part of that thing is in the development space, we tend to be more accepting of people with disabilities and with neurodivergency. So this is a term that is one that's not really well used, but we use it in the dev industry to mean people with like ADHD, autism, all of those spectrum of, I don't want to say diseases because I feel like that's the wrong word. I'm using unintentional ignorance, but that kind of, people who are not as neurotypical, right? So I'm neurotypical. I don't have ADHD. I don't have autism. I don't have Asperger's. I don't have anything like that. But thinking about these people who have these situations and what I can do to help them to learn, right? So like, I talk with Mark, who's the editor, and I'm like, I need to mix it so there's no sudden noises.
Right.
Because to some people, a sudden noise, that could ruin their day.
Right.
If they have audio spatial processing problems or things like that. The website is white text on a black background, but I'm actually working on a toggle to make it black text on a white background. I'm working on a toggle to flip it so that it's white text on a black background.
Oh, for your website.
Yeah, for the website. Right. So that then for people who can't read white text on a black background. And I'm also working on a toggle to switch to open dyslexia to make it easier for people who are dyslexic to read. But I've also been talking to people about what kind of plugins you can put into your browser. So there's one from Microsoft called Immersive Reader. This is currently only available in their products. So you have to have the Edge browser. You have to have Microsoft Office. You can switch this on. And what it does is you can set it up so that all of the words on the screen disappear.
Right.
And it just hyper focuses on one word. Then you can change the font so that it's like open dyslexia and things like that. So then you can literally only see one word. It blocks everything out. So for people who can't deal with moving their eyes across the screen and picking up lots of words at once, that helps you to focus on a word. They have what they're calling a visual dictionary. So like the word light, you move the mouse over it, and it pops over and it shows you a flashlight and the sun. So then if you don't know what the word means, you can learn what it means from the context there. And then it can even break the word down into syllables. So for some people with dyslexia, it's easier to read if they focus on the individual syllables that make up the word. So you push a button, boom, 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 there it is. And then they have you can have adjectives in one color, nouns in another. So it helps you to work out what the sentence is talking about. Because, for people like you and me, and perhaps most of the people in the audience, this isn't a problem that they have to solve.
Right.
But for someone, this is a problem they have to solve. And if even if it takes me my entire life to build all of these features into all of the stuff that I do, if it helps one person, that's mission complete, right? Because that one person can walk away from whatever it is that I've built in a position where they know more, or they have the ability to know more in a way that works for them. Because, sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead.
Like, one of the things that I was taught in both my teacher training and all the reading I've ever done is don't ever think that you are stupid, dumb, whatever the term is, because you don't understand something. Because what can be understood by person A can be understood by person B, but it's on person A to find out how person B learns.
Yes.
And how, like, use the metaphors and phrases that they understand.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's on person A to do that. It's my job to make sure that the content I'm putting out there is accessible to them. It's not up to YouTube to caption it for me. It's not up to Google to do the SEO for me. It's not up to any of them. It's up to me. And that's a lot to take on. And that's a huge thing to say to anyone who's watching, because it's like, it's no longer just, well, I'm just talking into a microphone and put it out. Well, there are actual laws in certain states, especially here in the States, definitely, where if your website is not accessible, if it doesn't have accessibility features, you will get sued. Because you've broken the law. Right. And so for a lot of podcasters, that's why transcript.com exists. That's why Dub Media exists. That's why all these products exist. Because without it, you can get sued. But at least with it, you can say, right, it's not 100% correct, but I'm better than, and all you have to be is better than everyone else. And it's like almost like
that guy. I think it was a movie. It was called Up the Creek or Up the Paddle or something or whatever. And then the famous line in the movie was like, "I don't have to be faster than the bear. I just have to be faster than you."
That's it, right? It's like the example I give. It's a terrible example, but the example I give is if I had a criminal mind and I wanted to steal a car, I don't care what the car is, I just want to steal a car for the joy of stealing a car, whatever joy you get, or the hit, whatever, right? We'll ignore that bit. But if I just want to steal a car, I'm going to go to a parking lot and I'm going to wait. I'm going to watch how people come, people go. I'm going to watch how they lock their cars. I'm going to watch to see if there's an immobilizer or one of those steering locks. And I'm going to pick a car that's easy to steal. Right? All you have to do to make sure your car isn't going to get stolen is be better than the person who doesn't lock their car, who doesn't put a lock on their steering wheel. You just have to be better than that, because that cuts out 90% of the criminals, because they're like, I just want to steal a car. I want to, smash the window.
Right. I want it easy. I want it easy. So sometimes you have to make it. You have to make it hard. I love what you talked about when you said.
Sorry, let's not talk about crime anymore.
Oh no. we talked about you want to. You want to help people, or it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility. One of my biggest questions that I always asked in my interviews when I was interviewing somebody was a question around, like, if you were about to open up a new business unit, who would you take with you and who wouldn't you take with you? Almost immediately, everybody always went to the people that they would take with them, right? I would take Jamie, I would take Cher, I would take Peter, da da da. Then my question would always ask, like, well, who wouldn't you take? Well, I wouldn't take so and so and so and so. And my follow-up question would, because it would always be, well, what did you do? Or what have you done to help that person? Because the tendency is that when they say, I wouldn't take Tim, it's because of X, Y, and Z. Right? I didn't take Susie because of X, Y, and Z. And my question was always, my follow-up was, well, what did you do to help them out? And it always would look at me. They always look at me like, holy crap. It's like, no, as a leader, and I'm putting this in the context of being a podcaster. As a leader, as a podcaster, your job is to think about that person that probably wouldn't take along with you, but how can you help that person? The people who get you are going to get you. Like, they're going to get your stuff, right? They're going to retail leadership stuff. Those who understand like different aspects of retail leadership, they're going to get it. But I think about my podcast in the context of like those who I can help and help bring along for the ride and bring along for the journey. And I think that's extremely important, because that's where the passion, someone spoke about passion, that's where the passion kind of comes in, is that when you are constantly thinking about that person that you can continue to bring along with you, and not the person that just kind of automatically gets you. I think a lot of people feed into the audience of people that it's like, yeah, cool, they understand me, but what about those people who are just kind of sitting in the cut and there's like, man, I wish you would write an episode or talk about something that actually speaks to me. Mm-hmm. As well, your podcast has even since the time that I have met you, has grown, and you've been able to expose, people to other people to your podcast. One of the things that you spoke about in this a little while ago was around the mentorship. Now, a lot of people don't think about their podcast as a tool to do anything other than possibly disseminate information. Mm-hmm. It just is what it is. You've been able to utilize your podcast to do other things. Do you think that leveraging, and I have to use the word leverage because it's I honestly, I know you because everything that you do is just an outpouring of who you are. So it's not like I'm going to sit here and write a plan to leverage my podcast to do this and that. But do you think that the extracurricular things that you do outside of your podcast has actually helped your growth of your podcast in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, maybe. Aside from opportunities like this where I'm talking with you and stuff like that, I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not about me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If I'm constantly saying, hey, go check out the podcast, it's .netco.show, .netco.show,
right.
I'm getting marked, some extra kudos there because he's the one that edits it. But like, if all I do is talk about the thing that I create, talk about me, talk about mine, then it's becoming about me. And it's not. It's about what can this do to help someone else.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why one of the reasons why I started another show called Tabs and Spaces, which is just a stupid let's argue about nonsense to do with computer programming. Because it's a great outlet for us, but then we also talk about things that are really important. Like with every podcast, we've got an episode on imposter syndrome, and all three of us opened up about how we've dealt with it. I mean, Zach didn't because he's got a wonderful ego and he's like, I'm just the best ever. But like we talked about, like James and I, that's the other host, and I talked about how when we were kids, we were told we would never be anything, we'd never achieve anything. And that affected us, but we were able to open up to that. And then people came to me after that episode dropped and went, that was really powerful for you to share that with us.
Yeah.
Because I felt the same way too. And if I feel it, someone else will be feeling it. And then we talked about how we dealt with it or how we deal with it on a daily basis. Like, because technology, like the technology sphere is like this, right? And like you're saying, I'm a niche of a niche, so I'm like here.
Yeah.
Right? So needing to know all of the stuff about this bit requires me to be there all the time.
Yeah.
Because it moves so fast.
Yeah.
Right? But because it's moving so fast, there's bits that I miss. And because I can't go back to read up, I've got to keep running to catch up. I get that imposter syndrome all the time because I'm like, but I don't know what this is, but maybe I could try and pick it up via context. Oh, you're talking about, right, and that's how that links to this. And like you're using ChatGPT to do that. Right, I get it. Or indeed, ChatGPT has come up quite a lot. Seriously, if you've got an OpenAI account on ChatGPT, go to it and say, explain this thing to me like I'm an idiot or like I'm a
5-year-old. Yeah.
And it will do a blooming brilliant job. And if you can't do that, head to Wikipedia, right? All the URLs for the English Wikipedia start with EN, right? At college, I memorized en.wikipedia.org/wiki/main_page because we couldn't have bookmarks, right?
Yeah.
If you swap the EN for simple,
really,
the whole article is written for a 5-year-old. Which, written for a 5-year-old, I feel like I'm being offensive when I say that, but it's like written in simple language, without the jargon, without all of the crazy context stuff you need to know. There's like the 5 bullet points that you need to know about it. So simple.wikipedia.org/wiki/whatever it is you want to learn. Or just go to the page and change the beginning of the URL from en dot to simple dot. And you've got it's in English, and then it's in like more... less complex language.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's it. That's what Steve's going to be doing this afternoon.
As soon as we get done here, I'm going there.
Stopped everyone from sharing.
No. I want to make sure we still connected with everybody. Share what I know is something. Is it? No, I didn't read this one. Sorry about that. I want to make sure I'm not being redundant. sharing what I know is something I've always done with tutorials, workshops, presentations, and articles, but have just started podcasting. Excellent. Welcome to the podcasting world. Appreciate you. But I've just started podcasting, so hope to get better and know what I've learned today will help. Good. Excellent. Awesome. Excellent, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. And Pete, if there's a question that you want to ask around podcasting and something that can help you get better, please, by all means, go ahead and put it in there as well, too. You're educating the audience in DEI in a real way. Thank you, Jamie. See? There you go.
So,
see?
Thank you for that, but I feel like I'm educating people about DEI and like this much of it.
Yeah.
There is a huge amount. Like I said earlier on, I've been to Microsoft this week, and they showed me a whole bunch of stuff. I can't talk about it, but they showed me a whole bunch of stuff, and like the amount of effort that they're putting in. Like, it's very public knowledge. They have an accessible controller. Like instead of a controller that looks like this, it's a big deck like this, almost like a DJ mixing desk.
Yeah.
Because the buttons are massive, so you can hit them if you may not have fingers.
You may need to stop talking about that because I don't need the Microsoft people jumping into here, man. And like,
so what they've done is they made the buttons huge because what if you don't have fingers? How are you going to play?
Yeah.
And they have like a lab where they're testing out how to help people who can't see play video games.
Oh, dude, that's
right.
Oh man, oh wow, dude, I love this one.
Sorry,
no worries. I love this one. And now we know Jamie's hobby is stealing cars. Oh my gosh, morning, gentlemen. What's going on, Mr. Hicks? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, dude. Good to see you. Facts, Steve. It's what I try to do in my community. That's leadership. I'm telling you, man.
One of the things that I learned from you, Steve, is
Teams tabs. That's awesome.
Regardless of where you are, you are a leader in your space.
Yeah.
Right. The reason that I shared those links at the company that I worked at was not because I was a leader, but because like, hey, this is a really cool thing that I think you all should know. I then became known as like a leader for providing new technology stuff, and we can be again. I've learned this from you. You can be a leader without being in a position of leadership.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, man. 100%. That's cool.
Yep,
I understanding things and being able to explain to the 5-year-old. Yep. It's my daily reminder when I'm trying to help people. 100%. Oh, wait. What? I had no idea about Simple.
So not every article has it, but yeah, and on the old Wikipedia UI, down the left-hand side, there would be the list of languages, and one of them is Simple. So you can click on that, just takes you through to it. I don't know where it is on the new, because they've changed the way the UI works, but yeah.
And this is on Wikipedia.
On Wikipedia,
and so I am super jaded from Wikipedia because the reason why I'm jaded on it because in grad school they were like no,
of course
they were like, dude, they were like, if I ever get a paper from Wikipedia, it's immediate fail.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not saying that this is just so I look at I go to Wikipedia sometimes and I get like PTSD and I can't read this thing because they just ingrained it. It was all scholarly articles, yada yada yada, whatever too.
Click on the citations.
Yeah.
It takes you through, and then you can see where they took the quote
from. Correct.
And
that's exactly what we did. Like to go deeper, very similar to, we start talking about like ChatGPT, like and prompt engineering, you can actually go a little deeper, as you think about it. Quick question here. Do you think it would help to go on other podcasts to help build up my own as well as my confidence? What do you think?
First thing I want to say, Peter, is thank you for asking that. Firstly, because of the bravery 100%. It took to type that out.
100%.
Right. So firstly, thank you for that. Secondly, totally, find podcasts that are in your that are with people that you know and trust, and because it's all about trust, right?
Yeah.
All that you know and trust, and that are in topics that you enjoy, and then see if you can. So like with the .NET Core podcast, right? When I get people on, we do a discovery call, and then we back and forth in email for weeks figuring out a schedule. But then I write all of the questions way ahead in advance.
Correct.
And then send them over for comments. I'm like, if you don't want to talk about this, you don't want to talk about that, we just won't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then I've had some people on the show, I won't say who, but some people on the show will email back their responses, and they will happily sit and read their responses live when we record. Totally fine.
Yeah.
Some people don't even want to see the questions. They're like, no, we can jazz this. It's fine.
Yeah.
And we can just make it up as we go along, and they're totally fine with that. And either end of that spectrum is totally fine. So yeah, Peter, if you can, I mean, if you want to talk .NET, come on my show. We'll do that, and we'll build you up. Quite slowly, because that's what I like to do. Because like I've been on shows before where it's like I turn up in the recording room, not a physical recording room, like in Skype, Teams, whatever, Zoom. There are alternatives, and they're like, right, we're live, and I'm like, also hello, right, right. So I don't want to put anyone in that position. The other thing that I do with all of mine is once the edit's done, and Mark will know this, he's in the chat. As soon as the edit's done, Mark sends me the early version. And then I send it out to the person straight away. And I'm like, right, you've got 2 weeks. After this 2 weeks, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to assume it's okay. Please have a listen to it. Show it to legal or whoever you need to get sign off. And if there's anything you need removing, just give me timestamps. 35 minutes and 40 seconds for 15 seconds, just delete what I said. Totally fine.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anyone getting in trouble for wanting to help. Because I see, the shows that I do are, I want to help.
Yeah.
And if by me trying to help people, it'll get people in trouble.
Yeah.
That's
interesting because you are in a field where there's a lot of not so much just NDA, stuff, right? But there's just a lot of things that are just under development that a lot of people can't.
Industry secrets.
Industry secrets, right? That people can't talk about. Yeah. And they probably get on your show and they're like, oh, snap. There's
been 2 episodes. One was completely canned before Mark took over editing. One was completely canned because I was like, at the end of it, I was like, we just recorded for 45 minutes and I can't use any of that, can I? And he went, oh, yeah, actually, yeah. Can you sign an NDA and delete the recording?
Oh.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Yeah.
And there was another one. I won't say which one, but the people that I know in the chat will know about this. There was an episode really early on where I got an email from that person's employer saying, after it had gone live,
wow,
you're not in trouble. They are, but we need you to remove this bit, and this bit, and pretend it never happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But because I don't get people to sign NDAs, I don't get people to sign releases because that's a barrier, right?
Correct.
And it was that episode. And again, people who know me will know which one it is because I tell people that's the reason why I send it round to everyone who's on it and just say, please double check, or send it to legal, send it to your people to have them double check, because otherwise you will be in trouble. Like, they can get fired.
Yeah.
I can quite literally go,
put your hands up.
I'm not part of your organization.
Right.
There is no way I could have known.
Right.
But I go that extra step to help them.
Yeah. That's
sorry.
Steve, no. I want to keep going on. Steve, I get it. Scholarly articles is what we had to do. ChatGPT is great, but must continue one's own research. 100%. 100%. What did I say? I used to read dummy books. Dude, all of us did. Yeah. All of us did.
I took Japanese language as part of my degree. I still have a Japanese for Dummies books. Because there's parts of it that I don't remember. Right?
Okay, good. Excellent, man. Excellent. There we go.
There we go. That's another episode.
There we go.
Yeah. Peter, if you don't have my contact details, you're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Send me a message. We'll figure it out.
Well, I think the part of, going on podcast, and here's the thing. The interview aspect of a podcast too, like when you're first starting out, and I always tell people this too, is like, when I first started out, when I first restarted, even when I first started in 2007, like, we were interviewing anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, we were just interviewing, like, dudes that were like, here's my dog walker. Like, yo, come on, talk to us about being an entrepreneur and being a husband. Yeah. Like, we were just talking, interviewing anybody. Yeah. And then when I restarted back up in 2017, it was like, I did the same thing. I think I initially started like just interviewing like anybody, but over time I continue to be more selective on who I bring on the shows, whether it's Podcasters Live or whether it's Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. I'm very selective now because of what we just spoke about earlier. It's about the audience, right? It's about like the value that you want to have, and I'm going to put Cher on the spot because I want to do a show with her about bios, right? We had this long conversation around bios and around when I could have easily read like a bio, like your bio, for the interview for this session, and the tendency, I think sometimes the bios that we receive or that when you're on a show, it's almost like a resume. Yeah. And I'm making a point
Jamie
here.
Did this. Jamie did
yes.
that. Isn't Jamie great?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm making a point here, Peter, around being a guest on the show. Please bear with me. Is that I think bios need to be written in a context of solutions. Like, what is Jamie actually on this show for? Like, what is Peter on this show for? Like, what is Peter gonna do? Like, once Peter leaves and you finish listening to Peter after this episode, what is that going to be? I think we have to start to rethink, guesting to some degree. And it's not just guesting for guesting's sake. It's actually guesting because of the actual audience, and we need to take the audience into consideration. Dude, you've had some amazing guests on your show. I remember, when we were meeting a lot, you would send us, you would send Susie and I different episodes. I'm like, dude, how did this sound? How was that? Did I ask too many questions? And you were, and I just saw the maturation, of your interviewing skills. When you think about .NET Core, right? Because what time is it? I want to be sensitive. Oh my gosh! Right? Yeah, no. I want to be sensitive with the time. Yeah. Well, before I ask the last question, what's this right there, man, that you got?
Yes.
Right there?
Okay. So,
all right. I'm sorry. I want to get this last question because I think this last question is going to help some more people out.
So what I'd like to know is whether Mark is still in the audience.
I don't know,
because this is a thing that Mark has put loads of effort into. He loves work because right. Okay. I keep talking about Mark works on Steve's shows, and he loves. Yes, he's there. Brilliant. Okay. Good. So.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark. I've got it, right? I don't know which camera. We're on that one, right?
Yeah, we're on that one.
This is a recycled box. So this isn't the box for the thing that Mark has made.
Yeah.
He has made, right? In this is something that Mark has made, and he's asked me to bring it over to you so I can hand it to you personally. And honestly, Mark, he's not seen this before we
I haven't.
Cher hasn't even seen it, and she's somewhere in the building. So yeah, this, right? This isn't the original box, but this is something Mark has made specifically for Steve.
I don't have a top down. I don't have my top down camera, guys. So I am. I'm just gonna. Oh man. Oh, this is dope. So I gotta take it out. I gotta take it out.
I'll have to try and fold it up so you can see that.
Yeah. So that's. I'm already digging it. Dude.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh, snap. That is so dope. Oh, this is fire. Oh, man. I love this. Mark, cool, this is awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked. I don't even, listen to me, man. Oh, wow. Dude, this is so freaking cool. Yeah. This is like so cool.
Yep.
I don't even.
So one of the things
I got to get this framed. That's actually
absolutely,
that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
That's I was thinking like what can I do with this? Like I'm gonna frame this. I'm literally gonna frame this.
Yep.
And put this up.
One of the things that I've been reading recently
this is so dope,
is
man.
a book about rest and play and relaxation. And one of the things that Mark does to rest and relax and play is he does cross-stitching.
You guys can see
that?
Yeah,
we can see that.
You can see that.
So he does cross-stitching, or as I call it, angry sewing.
Angry sewing?
And so that's what he does to sort of relax on an evening.
Oh, man.
And I've been sitting on that for ages.
Dude.
And as soon as he found out I was coming over to the States, he was like, are you going to see Steve? I was like, yes. Okay, here, give this to him. You have to give this to him. And it has to be live on a stream so I can see his response.
No, I don't like it. No, I don't like it at all. It's horrible.
So I'm taking it back.
It's horrible. It's horrible. That's amazing. Yes, it is. It's pretty dope, man. It's pretty dope. And then Tally says, "Yeah, it is. It is super cool, dude." All right, man. My last question, because it's we've been going for a minute, dude. But yeah, it's right there, man.
Right?
It's right there. That's why I put it right there, Mark.
Center stage.
Yeah, it is center stage. I got to make sure I'm going to frame that puppy up and do a whole little video on that. Where do you see .NET Core going right now? Because you've accumulated so many different downloads, and it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. Because I think the reason why I wanted to ask this question is the closing question is because there are people who are currently where they are within their podcast, but then they may want to they may not know where they want to go with it.
Sure.
They're like, okay, I'm just pumping out content or podcast episodes, but I don't really know where I want to go. Sure. Where do you see your podcast kind of going and the impact that you want it to have?
So, like I said earlier on, the impact that I want it to have is one person listens to one episode and learns something.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. Right?
Yeah.
Just the one person listens to something, learns something, and is able to move from there. Where I want to go is I want to be able to be more selective of the guests. Just because what I have is I have in my mind a plan for. So we're coming towards the end of season 5. Right? Season 5 ends in August, and we're doing this in April. Right, it's almost May.
Yeah,
right? I already have everything ready for August. Right? So I'm planning season 6.
So let me ask that question real quick. I want people to understand this, and this because I'm sorry, Tyler. I'm going to put this away. I want to. How far in advance do you play? Because I think I already know the answer to this, but I want people to understand this, because I think this is part of your success. How long in advance have you recorded and your podcast episodes, and how long in advance?
Well,
or how far in advance?
Yeah. So when I started, I was doing it all myself. I didn't have an editor. I didn't have. I was manually managing a website. I was doing all of the stuff myself. I'm still doing the majority of it myself, but it gets hard. Life gets in the way, right? Even good things about life get in the way, right? You might be really stupid example. I'm here in the States. Somebody might say, "Hey, Jimmy, do you want to go down to the Cheesecake Factory?" I can't because I've got to edit this episode, right? Yeah. You then have to make that decision, right?
Right.
But if you're ahead by at least one episode, it means that you've got that buffer. So that when you become ill or when a great opportunity comes up, you can put that on pause and go do the thing you need to do, then come back to it if you want.
Right.
And that's always been my thing. I've wanted to be as far in advance as I can, but not too far, because that's the problem, right? Technology moves so fast.
Right.
If I record a whole bunch of episodes going in this direction, and then everybody pivots back over here, I've got all this content that, whilst it's still usable, nobody's going to want to listen to because they want to hear the new hot sexiness. Yeah. So I'm 2-3 months, maybe 4 months in advance. And I mean,
that's crazy.
That doesn't. It sounds like a lot, but it isn't actually a lot.
Yeah.
It's only 2 episodes per month.
Okay.
So it's only 8 to 12 episodes ahead.
Right.
But that's because I don't want to be in a position where, and I did this back when I first started. I was like 3 a.m. the day before editing, and then not getting sleep and going into work and doing a full day of work because the episode goes out. The episode has to go out on midday on Friday. 7:30 a.m. UK time Friday morning. It has to go out. Everything else can move around it. It has to go out, right? And that's kind of like the deadline I set for myself. And early in the show's career, the first 6 months were really hard because it was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning before it goes out. I'm still editing. I'm still putting it together. And there were 3 episodes that went out that I didn't like because I put the wrong intros on them, right? Because it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I've done it wrong because Pete will know this. Peter will know this when we record, that we just record the bulk of the content and then I add the intro and outro after.
Correct.
Right? Because then I know what we've talked about.
Yep, exactly.
If I'm going to, if I sit with you, Stephen, we say, right, today we're going to talk about .NET MAUI, which is a way of building applications with .NET to run on your phone or on your desktop computer on the web, and it uses a modern UI toolkit. And then we talk about, fridges,
whatever,
and faucet types,
exactly, right?
It's pointless. The intro needs to be re-recorded.
100%.
Right? So I wait until after we've recorded the episode, and then I pick like the 3 topics that I think are most interesting.
Right.
And then I've started doing this recently, jumping to the end and going, this is the golden nugget that the person drops at the end. And mention it, but don't do the BuzzFeed thing. Right? Mention it at the beginning and tease it.
Agreed.
So then people are going to stick around because And I'm going to drop this one on you. At the minute, the first 20 seconds of your the first 2 minutes of your podcast are the
100%.
most important parts.
100%.
Because of things like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, it's going to quickly become the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? And so if all you're doing at the beginning is just playing music,
yeah,
your audience is getting nothing.
Yeah.
And a percentage of your audience, it may not be a big percentage, it may be a small percentage, it may be all of your audience, will switch off. I don't want to just sit here and listen to the music. Why am I listening today?
Yeah.
Why am I listening?
Yeah.
Like, listen to anything by WNYC, by Radiolabs. They have that bit at the beginning, the teaser at the beginning.
Yeah.
Today's episode, we're going to talk about this. Oh, and here's a zero context audio quote.
20,000
like,
hertz.
Whoa, what was that?
Yes.
And then,
right? Man.
And so I want to do more of that, but I also want to be really a little bit more selective with my guests. Because like you said, right, you get to a point where you're like, right, we need an episode for next week. We haven't got anything. I'll get the dog walker, or we'll get the guy who installed the satellite dish. Because they're an entrepreneur, they run their own work for your previous show, and they're a husband, and I want to get them to talk about that, but I don't really know them, and I haven't really built a rapport with them. Whereas what I want to do is I want to be able to continue the conversations I have, building a rapport with someone before we go live. That way it's more relaxed like this is, right? Because we know each other, right?
Right.
And then from Peter's perspective, you're more relaxed going into the conversation. And then to ask them to stick around afterwards. So it's not really well publicized, but we have a Discord server for the .NET Core podcast. And all of the people who've been on the show this year, in 2023, are on the Discord server.
Right.
So if you've listened to an episode and you're like, I'd love to pick that person's brains about it, you don't need to collect their contact details. Just jump onto the server and you can ask them the question there in the open.
That's good.
So
that's good community building, man.
Yeah, because all I want to do is build. It's not for the community of. It is for the community of listeners, and it's not for me to say, oh, I have a huge community of listeners. But it's so that then, if Peter wanted to ask, you something, there's a direct line there. Right? There isn't a, could you ask Steve if I can have his email so we can do the thing, and then I have to do an intro email. It's not a bad thing. It's just these extra steps. Right?
Yeah.
And the more extra steps you have, the less likely someone's going to do.
Yeah.
Right?
It's almost like I think, and guys, we're going to be closing up here in a second. So if you have any last questions or things that you want to ask, I want to make sure that we answer any questions, before we leave, man. It's because I always bring everything back to my first passion, which is leadership. I always think about and what we have always talked about in retail. It's always been around having like a frictionless experience. Like whenever you walk into a store, like the goal of a really good retail experience is to remove any obstacles that are going to hinder my experience. And I think the same thing with podcasting, right? Too, like people need to start thinking about their podcasting in that same context. It's like it needs to be a frictionless experience. Like there shouldn't be things that will hinder that person from listening to your entire episode, right? That's the goal. And I know that there's, listening time is, I don't know what the average is, probably like 50, 60% or whatever. But like, how do you create a podcast that's going to, even like a live stream, that's going to have some friction, that's going to be a frictionless experience, and that it's live streaming is a little different than the actual podcast, because if you and I were on a podcast episode, we've been going for like almost an hour and a half. We would probably be just going for like 30, 40 minutes, maybe, or whatever, right? Because it's like boom, 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 the questions or whatever. But live streaming, the goal is to go a little deeper. But you can go deeper because you got the time. You can go deep with a podcast too, right? But you got to be sensitive of your audience, right? Everybody can't be Joe Rogan, with their podcast or whatever too. I know a lot of people want to be Joe Rogan. They want his money, they want the numbers, but they don't know if they want the headache that comes with it or whatever too, man. But dude, before you leave, man, give I don't know, I don't even like. Well, I would say give some inspiration, right? Give some inspiring words to the would-be podcaster and live streamer that's out there that when they see 600K, they're like, dang, man, like this dude's doing it, but you're just Jamie, man. At least that's how I see it, man.
That's how I try to be. That's how I try to be. I guess number one is it's not about you.
Yeah.
Right? Unless it is about you, in which case it could be about you, but is that really, are people going to choose, like the Joe Rogan thing, They tune in for Joe Rogan because it is about him, right?
Yeah.
But that's because he's been in TV for like 25 years.
Correct.
That's the thing people don't realize about Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
They don't realize he was in TV in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And then he did the MMA stuff, and then he's been in movies, and then so he's built his audience over a very long period of time. All they see is Spotify have signed him for X millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they go, hey, he creates a podcast. I can create a podcast. That's easy. And I mean, sitting in front of a microphone and talking is easy. But it's like creating something that has a coherence to it. Like, Podcasters Live has an amazing coherence to it because it's like, you know what you're getting from the name, from the experience, you know everything going in. You know that you can get in touch. I'm pointing over here. I'm giving away some of the secret sauce. There's a chat here that we can see. Right. You can interact with the people that are on there. You know that there is that direct line during that live experience. And so it is different to what a lot of people think it could be. Right. It is not about you. It's not about you. So drop the ego. So if it's not about you, who is it about? So to find out who it's about, start with your why. And this is a Simon Sinek book that I read after your recommendation. Yeah. And it is in that book he says the iPod came out and arguably there were better digital MP3 players. But the iPod had a fantastic why. Yeah. That's why people bought it.
Yeah. The Zune, was it the Zune?
Yeah, Microsoft have the Zune. Almost no one bought them because they didn't have a why.
Correct.
Well, their why was, Apple did it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was it. It's a competing product. They didn't have a why, which means, because people don't buy the what, they buy the why, don't they?
Yes.
Right? I feel, I'm preaching to you here. To the choir,
man.
Like, that's what it is. They don't buy the what, they buy the why.
People, man, I hope you, come on, man. I know they were like, man, you waited to the very end to drop that one, but that's a clip. I'm definitely going to use. They don't buy the what, they buy the why. They don't listen to the what, they listen to the why, right? They don't view for the what, they would view for the why, right? Why is this?
Why should I watch this? Quite literally, that is a when budding podcasters and people come to me and say, I started a podcast last week and it's only had 3 views. How do I get more? And I was like, why do you create the podcast?
Yeah, they don't.
Straight away, it's a rude question.
Yeah.
But why do you create it? Well, because it's me and my friends and we're having a laugh. Okay, right. So why should I listen to it?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's the second question. Why do you create it and why should I listen to it? Why should I give up that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 90 minutes? And then when people say to me, how long should it be? I say, as long as it takes to tell the story, whatever story you're telling. So you're saying we've been going on for 90 minutes. Yeah. It's taken 90 minutes to get to this point. Yeah. That's how long it needs to be.
Exactly, man. Right? I always think about it, and I keep saying I want to stop, and I got to stop. But it's I always just go back to, like I said, the core of like when we start to talk to people about change. I always tell people, people we work with them, like, what's in it for me, right? And not so much what's in it for me, but when you start to think about change and that you want to implement, it should be, it's more like, what's in it for me? Or like, but what's in it for them? Like, why should I change this? Or why should I do this? Well, I'm not getting anything out of this, right? Or what am I going to get out of it? It's the same thing with your podcast or your live stream. It's like, what's in it for them? Or because if you can't articulate that or provide them with a strong enough reason, then a lot of times they may subscribe to your content, which means in the podcasting world, which means that you're going to get a download, right? Which is what we call the aspirational acquired knowledge, but they're not going to consume it, meaning that they've actually acquired the knowledge. And so there's a massive difference with that.
I talk to people about this all the time. If you're creating an audio podcast, right? I can write a script that will download all of your episodes 1 billion times and you'll get 1 billion downloads. Doesn't mean anything. Because no one's heard your message. Yeah. Which means if your end goal is to sell sponsorship space, you can say to them, I've got 1 billion downloads. Brilliant, we'll give you loads of money. But then they will not see a return on that investment. Right. Because you've technically stolen from them. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And so what we need to focus, which I feel is what we're going towards, is listening time. Yeah. As a metric.
100%.
I have, I may have an audience of this much, X amount, and on average, people listen to 50% of the episode, which means if you want to get your message out, you need to have your message in the beginning of the episode.
Come on.
In that pre-roll.
Yes.
Those first 2 minutes being the most important bit. Like if this were going out as an MP3, we would say, right, we want, something at the beginning that says, and Jamie drops this knowledge bomb towards the end.
Yes.
You want to stick around for it. It's related to this thing, but make sure you stick around to the end.
Yeah.
Because then people know, oh, shoot, I've got to listen to the very end of the episode because Jamie says something, or Steve says something, or, James says something, Peter says something. They drop something in it, Cher says something. They drop something in the episode that is applicable to me, applicable to the audience, applicable to whoever. And then I make that decision of sticking around to the end instead of, skipping over this bit because maybe this bit isn't relevant to me or whatever.
Yeah, man. 100%, man. 100%. Oh, dude. Okay. All right, man. Well, we're gonna be, we're gonna be hanging around Atlanta today, and just doing some different things and showing you the city, and I'm excited about that, man. To spend some time with you, but I thank you for waking up early. Like you were waking up early, allowing me to come down there and grab you, and then make sure I got you some tea as well, man.
It was lovely tea, by the way. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Excellent, man. Excellent. I was nervous. Because I know how you guys love your tea, over there, and
it's a little bit more complex than some stuff and hot water.
Yeah.
I feel like coffee can be.
Yeah.
It isn't, but it can be as simple as that. Pour some stuff in, pour some hot water in, you're done.
Dude, it is. It is. And then I always think about Ted Lasso whenever he's talking about he jokes around about tea. He said, "This is the joke, right?" He's in one of his episodes. "This is a joke. Like, you guys don't really like this stuff, do you?" And he's like, and they're like, "No, we love it." And he was like, "No." He's like, "No." He said, "What did he say? It tastes like dirty water. I can't do it. I can't do it." But man, dude, I appreciate you, man. So more to you know for being here.
I appreciate you too.
Connecting with the community and telling your story, and then also giving them some perspective of, around podcasting and the longevity and what that takes and what it means to actually be in this, and the passion, right? We spoke about this the other day. Was around how do you develop passion for podcasting. And I think it could be learned, but I think it's learned more so when you actually know what you're talking about, and when you are able to actually create more concepts or more content around what's something that you really can talk more about. What we see is that a lot of people start creating stuff that they're not really passionate about, and they flame out. And as much as I love this medium, I don't want to see people flame out. I want to see them grow, because I think it grows the industry, and it just grows, and it helps us as other podcasters out as well too. And so I appreciate that, man. Cool.
I'll leave you with this stat.
Yeah.
This is one that I learned a few days ago. At the moment in the US, there is a current shortfall of 4 million developers. There's thinkings that by 2023 we'll have a shortfall of 10 million developers.
Yeah.
I heard that stat and I'm like, I need to double down on my podcast because I'm trying to help people to get in. Right? That's the whole I know you wanted to wrap up and get on with our day, but like the kernel of what I'm doing or why I'm doing it with anything I do is to try and get people in. Right?
Yeah.
Because when I went to school and college and stuff and university, the only way to get into programming was to go that route. Yeah. Now we have like boot camps. Now we have entirely online learning resources. You can learn to do what I do just by being on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? You can go to YouTube, you can type in .NET in 8 hours, and there's thousands, or .NET in 2 hours, or Flutter or whatever, like iOS app development in 2 hours.
Right.
And there are people out there that have condensed everything you need to know down to a 2-hour-long video you can watch and build the app along with it. They take you on that journey, and guess what? You're now an iOS developer. I want to help with that crowd, not because I want the kudos, not because I want the accolade, not because I want to try and make money with it, but because I have this. And you may think it's altruistic, you may not think it's altruistic, but I have this goal of saying, here's a bunch of content that people can use to actually bootstrap their career and get to where I am faster.
Right.
Because that's what I want. I want people in this position.
We just talked about that. We just talked about the time.
No,
we just spoke about the time thing around making sure what What's going on, Ash? How you doing, man?
Hey, Ash, how you doing?
Good to see you, dude. Another guy from across the pond hanging out with us. I appreciate that. Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, why is it? I need it.
It's so important. We have to show it 3 times.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that's my man. Yeah, there we go. All right, Jamie, dude.
Yes.
Yo, pleasure, man.
Man, it's been amazing.
Yeah, dude.
It really has.
I'm excited. I'm so happy. You came over to the States, man. I remember when you first told Susie and I that you were coming and you were going to be over in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, Seattle's far. For me, I was like, Seattle's far. You're like, dude, hey, man, I may, come over your way. I was like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah, right.
I said, come on, man. And so I'm stoked that we've actually been able to kind of be in real life now.
Prove that I'm a real person.
Prove that you're a real person,
I'm not
man.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're not like a Bard AI or whatever. But now I got to return the favor, and so I got to continue my planning for my trip over to the UK.
Live UK tour.
Oh man, dude, listen to me, dude. Oh, dude, there's like 5 or 6 people that that are over there. That Ash is one of them that I want to connect with when I go over there, man. And then of course, football is of course on my mind. Got a football or soccer. I call it football because that's what the rest of the world calls it.
Yeah.
Except for the States, we call it soccer, which is
a friend of mine
very
calls
American.
American football hand egg because it's
Hand
not
egg.
really a football.
Yeah.
It's neither a ball nor do you kick it.
Yeah.
You hold it in your hand and it's the shape of an egg.
Yeah, I'm
It's a
like,
hand egg.
yeah, man.
Sorry,
I know,
I've just
man.
alienated everyone. In the
I know,
audience.
right? Everybody's like, all
these are not the opinions of Steve or podcast. Okay?
Dude, listen to me. No. They already know. They already know how much I love football. Like I literally call it football. They know how much I love soccer, but they know that my girls used to call me un-American because even on Sunday I would be watching football and not the NFL.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's how I did. So anyway, all right, sir. Thank you all for being here today. Early Saturday morning. We appreciate you guys for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Have fun or your Saturday evening over there in the UK. Over here in the States, it's still Saturday morning, so we're gonna continue to enjoy our Saturday morning. Hang out with my man Jamie or whatever too. And we'll probably take some pictures and do some stuff. But I'm gonna show him. I live in the northern part of Atlanta, so we're gonna probably hang out here for a little bit. And then kind of do some other stuff or whatever too. I ain't give you all the details because I don't want y'all stalking me. So, all right, guys, have a great day, and God bless.
Thank you.